Part 109. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1081. How to get in. Tang Haoshan asked, frowning as he looked at the passages where no one could get through. Now Wang Feng and the others are around the passage. Because Wang Feng has destroyed all the surrounding surveillance cameras, the Buri tribe cannot see Wang Feng and the others at all. However, in order to prevent Wang Feng and the others from entering the passage, every few seconds, several streams of light flew out of the passage. I can't figure it out. Wang Feng shook his head and smiled bitterly. This building, located in the center of the Buri city, was quite huge and made of very strong materials. Even they couldn't demolish it. Qiu Jian stepped forward and tried. His destructive power could easily destroy the building, but the building was too big. If he wanted to demolish the building alone, he would probably not be able to demolish it. It can't be done in 100 years. Forget it. Go outside and clean up the city first, and kill all the Bri people who are not in this building. Wang Feng shook his head and said. Anyway, we only need to kill 40% of their clansmen. Maybe those outside will be enough. Everyone looked at Wang Feng, nodded, and then all left. Even Wang Feng did not stay here to guard. He knew in his heart that the Buri tribe could not only have entrances and exits here, and it was useless to guard. At this time, the battle in the city was going on in full swing. I hope that the soldiers of the expeditionary force had also suffered casualties. After all, the stream of light flying in the sky made it difficult for them to guard against it. If it weren't for the many mutant bees who risked their lives to save them and helped some of the expeditionary force soldiers to block it. Lu Guang, I'm afraid their casualties will further expand. The body of the mutated willow tree had also been blasted into pieces by the streamer at this time. The mutated beehive in its trunk was also directly destroyed by the streamer. Fortunately, all the mutated bees in the hive had already flown out. Join the battle, and the mutant queen bee has long been prepared to abandon her hive, so it is expected. However, although the main body of the mutated willow tree has been killed, the attack of the mutated willow tree has not stopped, because its roots that have covered most of the city have broken out of the ground and tied up all the robots on the ground. Under the attack of Liu Guang, the mutated bees suffered heavy losses, and only about 1/3 were left. However, these mutated bees have made a great contribution this time. Without them, the mutated willow tree can only restrict the robots at most. It's just an action, there is no good way to kill them. Moreover, the buildings in the middle area of the city have all been corroded by the mutated bees. Many large holes have been corroded, allowing the expeditionary force soldiers to enter them to search for the Buri people. However, it seems that the Buri people only regard the central building as theirs lair, so the search outside has not been very effective. Until now, the battle has been going on, and all the humans have killed less than 500 Bray people. Including those they killed before, now they have not even completed 1/5 of the mission. But there are fewer and fewer Bri people outside. Although the members of the Buri tribe are basically gone now, the robots they made are still flowing towards the battle area, as if they are endless. Although killing these robots did not help the human race's mission, there were still some soldiers who were distracted by fighting these robots and were hit by streamers and died on the spot. However, the soldiers of the Hope Expeditionary Force are now can't stop, can only continue. Wang Feng couldn't help but feel anxious when he heard that more and more soldiers were killed. Judging from this progress, I'm afraid that all the expeditionary force soldiers who entered the city today would be wiped out in less than a day. Fight. After Wang Feng took the several robots in front of him into his own space, he flew directly up and prepared to fly to the top of the building in the middle. However, as soon as he flew into the air, he was attacked by countless streamers. Here after all, it was a city built by the Buri people who spent countless efforts and time, so the number of streamers was much smaller for attacks on the ground. The Bree people don't want their city to perish together with the human race, but they have no scruples about attacking air targets. After teleporting several times in a row, Wang Feng directly flew his body upwards close to the central building of the Buri tribe. This trick really worked. Those Buri tribe members were worried that the stream of light would accidentally damage their central building, so Wang Feng's attacks became very restrained. Wang Feng kept teleporting all the way, consuming a lot of life energy, and then reached the top of the building. During this period, he was even hit by the streamer several times. However, Wang Feng, who has experience, was hit by the streamer every time. At the same time as the hit, he directly cut off the body hit by the stream of light, and then spent a lot of life energy to restore his body. This time Wang Feng made a desperate move. So far, the Bray tribe is the most powerful race that the human race has encountered. Although this race has a population of less than 10,000, they have made no one since entering the Endless Tower. The Lost Hope Expeditionary Force began to reduce its numbers. From the report of the communicator, Wang Feng has learned that the current Hope Expeditionary Army has killed more than 3,000 people. This is definitely a heavy blow to the human race. The current Hope Expeditionary Army is not like the former Guardians. After the Legion suffered battle losses, as long as Li Yingning was around, it could quickly be replenished. Those fallen expeditionary soldiers were all strong men who had reached level 10 and had experienced many battles. Each of them was an elite of the human race. For the first time, Wang Feng had the idea of destroying this race in his heart. In the previous 99 floors, the human race did not destroy any race, although Wang Feng knew that after destroying them, he would have the opportunity to obtain the mark of the controller, and the number of marks of the controller determined his strength after becoming a controller. But Wang Feng still did not destroy any race. The Bray tribe was the first one he wanted to destroy. Originally, Wang Feng planned that in this Endless Tower, he would only destroy one race, that is, the Cosmic Ghost Clan, which had a deep grudge with the human race. When Wang Feng came to the highest floor of the building, he looked at the building in front of him and directly summoned the Xianyuan sword. He was about to try whether his Xianyuan sword could break through the outer layer of the building. Suddenly, the wall in front of him became transparent. Behind the wall was a huge space. Countless people of the Bray tribe were in their cars and looking at Wang Feng. Humans. We surrender. A small aircraft flew through the wall and came to Wang Feng, and then a voice came out. We know the conditions for you to pass this level, we can meet you, just ask you not to exterminate us. It turned out, the top floor of this building is the final hiding place of the Buryui people. Now almost all the living Buryui people are gathered here. As for the small passage that Wang Feng saw before, it is indeed a passage exclusive to the Buryui people. However, it only occupies a small area in the building. It is used by the Buryui people as a resting place, because they usually hide themselves in their vehicles, and their vehicles naturally cannot pass through those passages. But Wang Feng and his men didn't know that. They thought that from that level on, all the structures above were like this, so they gave up breaking through from the inside of the building. Originally, if the human race wanted to find the Buryui people's nest, it would probably take a long time, but because of the death of the expeditionary soldiers, Wang Feng didn't want to delay any longer, and he rushed to the top floor in one breath. Wang Feng thought very clearly that this was a sneak attack. If they wanted to use this method again next time, it might not be so smooth. Although there were a few soldiers brought this time, according to the situation, it would be useless to have more soldiers, and it would only increase casualties. Now because the city is in a mess, the people of the Bure tribe have no scruples. The streamers are flying all over the sky, and they are not afraid of accidentally hurting their robots, so many soldiers of the expeditionary army died. But they don't have teleportation, they can only rely on their own speed to avoid the attack of the streamers, and even the invincible ability has no resistance to these streamers. So the battle formation of the expeditionary soldiers is equivalent to having no effect here. However, Wang Feng is still lucky. He just came to the top floor and scared the people of the Buray tribe. What the Buray tribe didn't know was that if they didn't make the wall in front of them transparent directly, Wang Feng couldn't see them. Maybe they could escape this disaster. Because Wang Feng didn't know how big the space behind the wall was, he didn't dare to teleport directly, but just wanted to use his Xianyuan sword to try to cut the wall. According to the toughness of the wall, it would take a long time for Xianyuan sword to cut it, and there were streams of light attacking Wang Feng from outside, so Wang Feng couldn't hold on until the wall was broken, so he would fly directly to the top to find other ways. However, after seeing Wang Feng had reached their level and took out the Xianyuan sword, these Buyui people thought that Wang Feng knew they were here and wanted to teleport in to kill them, so they quickly surrendered to save their race. In panic, they even forgot a unique attribute of the wall in front of them, isolating life. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1082. Although there are so many Buray tribe members here, even now, Wang Feng can see them, but still can't feel the fluctuations of their lives. This is because their walls can isolate the fluctuations of life energy and hide them. Their existence. If they hadn't taken the initiative to make the wall transparent, Wang Feng would never have discovered that there was only a wall between him and these Buray people. Now that Wang Feng discovered the gathering place of the Buray people, it was actually right in front of him. Of course, he was not polite. He teleported directly and entered the building. As for the request of the Buray people, stop attacking immediately. After Wang Feng entered this hall, his first words were to ask them to stop their streaming light attack, because the speed of those streaming lights was too fast, and all the expeditionary soldiers died from the streaming light attacks. As for the robots, for this as a humanoid creature, the expeditionary force soldiers have considerable experience. No. You must withdraw from our city first, and then we will negotiate. A Buray tribe hurriedly said that because Wang Feng killed 2 of their tribesmen before, the current human race must have no credibility in the hearts of the Buray tribe. Of course, the Buray tribe will not believe Wang Feng easily. Brush. Without saying a word, Wang Feng just teleported. Then, Xianyuan sword stabbed directly through the body of the robot driven by the Buray tribesman who spoke, stabbing the Buray tribesman directly to death. As far as I'm concerned, I don't need to negotiate with you. After stabbing the Buray tribesman to death, Wang Feng said coldly. Now you have only 2 options, one is to be killed by us and your tribe is annihilated, and the other is to stop hostilities with us immediately. We can keep most of your tribe. From now on, every time one of our warriors dies, 1% more of your tribe will be killed. In other words, if 60 of our warriors are killed after now, then your Buray tribe we are exterminated. Wang Feng knew that every second he delayed now, one of the Hope expeditionary forces outside might be killed as a result, so Wang Feng directly adopted such a thunderous method without giving the Buray tribe any time to think about it. Originally, Wang Feng had decided to exterminate the Buray tribe because he hoped that the expeditionary force would suffer too many casualties. However, considering that if he really did this, more expeditionary force soldiers would definitely die, so he told the original story after saying that, I didn't expect that the Buray tribe asked them to withdraw first. This was of course impossible. They have already suffered such heavy losses. If they withdraw again, it will be just a delaying tactic for the Buray tribe. It will not be easy for Wang Feng and the others to break in again. Hearing Wang Feng's words, the Buray people were shocked and looked at each other. No one dared to make a decision easily. Seeing that none of the Buray people stood up and spoke, Wang Feng finally became angry. Humph. Since you choose to continue fighting, don't blame us humans. After saying that, he waved the Xianyuan sword and prepared to start killing. Now that he has entered the building, and these Buray people are here, Of course Wang Feng has no scruples anymore. According to the number estimation, if every robot standing here, if there is a Buri tribe among them, then all their tribesmen should be here. Even if they would choose to escape when he started killing, Wang Feng felt that it shouldn't be very difficult for him to complete the killing mission of the human race here, etc. Seeing that Wang Feng seemed to be ready to take action, some Buri people quickly screamed, "You really promise that you will only complete your human race's mission? Stop talking nonsense. Stop attacking immediately. Otherwise, you won't even have the last chance." At this time, the news of the death of 2 Expeditionary Force soldiers came again from the communicator. Wang Feng opened his eyes angrily, pointed the Xianyuan sword forward and said, 3, 2, 1. No need for Wang Feng to explain, the Buri tribe naturally knew what the 3 numbers Wang Feng counted down meant, so when Wang Feng had just shouted 2, some members of the Buri tribe had already shouted, "Stop attacking." Hearing the shouts of these Buri people, Wang Feng stopped himself from rushing towards them, and then asked into the communicator, "Lao Lu, how is it outside? Is there still Lu Guang's attack?" "No more. Not only is there no Lu Guang's attack, even those robots have stopped moving and all stayed in place." Lu Feng said. "Madman! What did you do? Find the lair of those breeze." Lu Feng's answer finally made Wang Feng breathe a sigh of relief. He hummed and then said, "Lao Lu, let our soldiers dismantle the energy cores of those robots. Don't worry about anything else for the time being. I'll talk to them about the conditions first. In addition, you find a few people and bring the instructors up. This is the center of the central building. On the top floor, let someone fly them up, and I'll pick them up." "Good." Lu Feng agreed happily. He knew what Wang Feng meant. Although these robots did not cause any casualties to them, they were still from the Buri tribe after all, and their energy cores naturally stored life energy. This of course required to dismantle and take them away. Lu Feng even planned to take all the robots away when he left. Although they couldn't understand these robots, the materials used to build them were really good. Even the long sword in Lu Feng's hand was a bit difficult to chop. You have to know that the long sword in Lu Feng's hand was made by Apostle John with meteorite iron, which was just a little worse than Xianyuan sword. Hearing Wang Feng's words, the Bri people looked at each other, but no one dared to object. In fact, although these Bri people had extremely powerful technology, they had never really fought against that race, and they had never lost so many people in the war. Those dead people had already frightened these Bri people, so when only one human came in, no one dared to take the initiative to attack, even though they were now in their own robots. As for the instructors, Wang Feng would certainly take them over. As long as they arrived, then, even if the talks failed in the end, Wang Feng didn't care. He was mainly afraid that if the talks failed, these people of the Buyui tribe would scatter and flee. At that time, he would not be able to kill them and complete the mission of the human race. Then there would be a lot of trouble later. It was a pity that the small fighters were all on his side, so he could only let other soldiers take them up. Wang Feng didn't dare to leave easily to pick them up now. Who knows if this building will change? What if he can't find them once he leaves? After hearing what Wang Feng said, Lu Feng didn't dare to neglect it. He quickly found a few soldiers and took the instructor Li Yingning, Xiao Wu, and Qiu Jian to the top floor of the central building. After talking to Lu Feng again, Wang Feng casually carried the Xianyuan sword on his shoulder, and then didn't say anything, just looked at the people of the Buyui tribe. Now that the attack below has stopped, Wang Feng is not in a hurry. There are so many robots below, let the warriors slowly dismantle them. His idea is actually the same as Lu Feng's. They are all ready to collect all the robots. The reason why they are asked to dismantle the power source of the robots first is, on the one hand, for life energy, and on the other hand, naturally, to keep the robots below. In this way, when Wang Feng leaves, he can directly collect all the robots into Xianyuan space and bring them back to the defense fortress. Even if these robots cannot be used anymore, it is quite good to use them to make weapons. After seeing them stop attacking, Wang Feng did not speak, but just stood there carrying the big sword that he had just used to kill a member of his tribe in front of them. The Buri tribe was a little at a loss. They looked at each other for a long time, and finally a member of the Burui tribe came forward and asked carefully. Human race. Can we now? Wait a minute. As soon as this person opened his mouth, he was interrupted by Wang Feng, who said in an impatient tone. Wait a minute, the negotiations will start after our people arrive. In addition, you should also discuss what price you are prepared to pay in exchange for the lives of your people. Hearing Wang Feng's words, the Burui tribe member was stunned, and then said. Exchange for the lives of our people? Isn't it necessary to kill 40% of our people? The other members of the Burui tribe couldn't help but show joy on their faces. If no one died, it would be great, but Wang Feng's next words immediately poured a bucket of cold water on their heads. I'm not talking about the 40%, but the remaining 60%. Wang Feng looked at them with a sword, exuding a fierce murderous aura. Do you think that after so many of our people were killed, we can easily let you go? Hearing Wang Feng's words, all the members of the Burui tribe were stunned. They originally thought that the so-called negotiation was just to pick out enough people from their own tribe to complete the killing task of the human race on this level, and then everything would be fine. Unexpectedly, now they not only have to kill nearly half of their own people, but also need to compensate the remaining half, so that the human race will stop killing them. Otherwise, it seems that the human race wants to exterminate them. In other words, they need to pay a certain price for the continuation of their race. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1083. After listening to Wang Feng's words, the Buri people ran to the side to avoid Wang Feng to discuss. Wang Feng ignored them and just waited quietly for the arrival of the instructor and the others. Wang Feng has decided in his heart that they will definitely open their mouths soon, and the Buri tribe must agree. Otherwise, he does not mind slaughtering all the Buri tribe. In fact, he knew that the death of the soldiers of the expeditionary force was not because the Buri people liked killing. In the final analysis, they were only defending, and the humans were the ones who really launched the invasion. This kind of conflict between the human race and the Buri race is not something that either of the two races wants, but because of the rules of the Endless Road, they must become enemies. Only a few minutes later, the instructor and the others appeared outside the wall. Wang Feng directly used teleportation to bring the instructor in together with the expeditionary soldiers who flew up with them. Have you discussed it yet? Seeing the instructors and others arriving, Wang Feng no longer wasted time. He looked at the Buri people and suddenly asked. What are you going to do in exchange for the continuation of your race? After hearing Wang Feng's words, the Buri tribesmen looked at each other. Finally, a Buri tribesman came out. He controlled his robot and came to Wang Feng and the others, and then said. Humans, we don't know what you need, so you can ask for it first. I know that with our Bray tribe, we really can't defeat you humans, especially in this situation, but I think if you want to we, the Buri people, have all been slaughtered, and we have to pay a certain price. Although it is easy for you to kill our people, I don't think all of you have the ability like you, so. Before the Buri tribe member finished speaking, Qiu Jian flashed his body and came to the front of the Buri tribe member. Then with a flash of sword light, he cut his robot into two pieces and directly killed the Buri tribe member inside. Exposed. He heard the meaning of this Bray tribe, that is, among the human race, only Wang Feng could kill their tribesmen easily, while the others were still a little helpless against their robots, so they stepped forward directly. Let this guy wake up. The power of destruction. What Qiu Jian and Wang Feng didn't expect was that the effect of Qiu Jian's attack far exceeded their expectations. After the Buri tribe's robot was cut off by Qiu Jian, all the Buri tribesmen present actually exclaimed together. And then looked at Qiu Jian with a look of fear. It seemed that Qiu Jian was more terrifying than Wang Feng. This is naturally because of the destructive power of Qiu Jian. In fact, the Bray people have also dabbled in the destructive power. However, they only obtained a little destructive power by chance, and used this destructive power they came to create weapons, so their weapons are so terrifying and can directly melt their targets. However, their weapons only have a little bit of destructive properties, so there is no way to compare with Qiu Jian's destructive power, but at least this makes them no strangers to the destructive power. Therefore, they understand better than anyone else the horror of this human race with the power of destruction. At the same time, they also know that the existence of this human race that they relied on before has disappeared. They originally planned that since their tribesmen were all here anyway, if the negotiation with the human race broke down in the near future, they could simply abandon the robots they were driving and escape into the small passage exclusive to their Bray tribe. They have a lot of arrangements there, all of which are intended to be used when a racial crisis occurs. However, those arrangements are very expensive and they are not ready to use them until the last moment. In their opinion, once they hide in the last racial refuge, it will be very difficult for the human race to enter, and because their weapons are constantly attacking, if they want to exterminate them, the human race will pay a considerable price. Because of this idea, the Bray tribe member planned to tell his back plan when he opened his mouth to avoid excessive demands from the human race. In their opinion, they did cause some casualties to the tribe, but at the same time, they will also die more tribesmen. Therefore, if the two tribes are compared, it is obvious that the Bray tribe will suffer a greater loss, at least once if you agree to the human race, 40% of the clan members will become victims and be killed by the human race. So they don't plan to pay any price after paying for these tribesmen, although for them, they are not lacking in materials. But now these Bray people have obviously given up on this idea, because they know the terrifying power of destruction. Although they think that their last line of defense is already quite strong after they have spent many years building it, they also know that they have no chance in the face of the power of destruction. This Buri tribesman who had lost any protection and exposed his body directly in front of everyone looked at Qiu Jian in horror, then turned back to look at his own tribe, and finally let out a long sigh. Okay. Human race. I admit that you now have the strength to exterminate our race. If you have any requests, you can make them. As long as our race is left with hope of continuation, we will agree to it. The people of the Bure tribe behind him immediately started a commotion after hearing the decision of their tribesmen, but it gradually calmed down and no one stood up to speak. According to Wang Feng's previous style, they could easily think that if they stood up at this time, they would definitely be killed by the human race, so they simply kept silent. Then, things were much simpler. Because of the appearance of Qiu Jian, the last reliance of the Bure tribe became a bubble, so they had almost no bargaining power for the conditions proposed by the human race. So, in the next 3 months, the Bure tribe once again helped the human race to transform the human race's fortress. When they arrived at the human race's fortress, the shock of the Bure tribe was simply indescribable, because they could not imagine that this defensive fortress of the human race actually had spatial attributes. This is a field that even they have not been able to touch, and the human race has already mastered it. As a result, the human race became even more terrifying in their eyes, so they modified all the weapons of the defensive fortress according to Wang Feng's request and integrated the power of destruction. After the modification, the human race's defensive fortress, like the weapons of the Bure tribe, no longer emitted energy beams, but streams of light, and the shooting speed and range were greatly improved. Of course, during their transformation, Chujian also provided them with a lot of destructive power, making the weapons of the human race's defensive fortress more powerful than those of the Buray tribe. Afterwards, Wang Feng of course took most of the robots of the Buray tribe without hesitation, and also asked the Buray tribe to use these metals to help the human race create a batch of cold weapons. As for the life energy reserves of the Buray tribe, Wang Feng naturally did not let it go. However, Wang Feng did not do anything. He not only left 1/5 of the life energy to the Brui people, but also left them a small half of the robots. Because when those robots were manufactured, the Brui people designed a method that only the Brui people could control in order to prevent them from being captured by other races and transformed into their enemies, and this method could not be cancelled. Originally, Wang Feng planned to let the Brui people help them make some robots, but when he knew that it would take at least 7 or 8 years or even more than 10 years to make robots suitable for human control, Wang Feng and his team gave up. Although there is no time limit on the endless road, they can stay here indefinitely, but considering that there are still many ordinary people in the human race, their lifespan is not so long, so Wang Feng and his team did not plan to waste too much time here. After all, they don't know how many levels they will have to go through later, and with the weapons transformed by the Brui people, the human race can be said to be quite powerful now. Even if they encounter cosmic ghosts again, they will not have any fear. In addition, all the warships of the human race were also modified by the Brui tribe. Although the performance of the Brui tribe's own warships is not very good as long as they are researching defense technology, it does not mean that they cannot improve the performance of the human race's space warships. Especially the Yanhuang, the Brui tribe directly completely modified the Yanhuang, because this warship is actually mainly Wang Feng's own exclusive warship, and it does not need to be so big. So the Brui tribe directly disassembled the Yanhuang and rebuilt it. After the transformation, the Yanhuang is only 1/3 of the previous size, but the firepower and speed have been greatly improved, especially because of the reduced size, making the Yanhuang more flexible, and at the same time the energy required for the energy shield is greatly reduced, and the defense is further improved. Because the Yanhuang was the most modified, it was the last to complete the transformation. After completing the transformation of the Yanhuang, Wang Feng and his team were finally ready to leave this level of the Endless Tower. As for the mission of the human race, it had been completed long ago. Because the Brui tribe did not have a unified leader, they chose their members as sacrifices by drawing lots. As for their members, they were directly collected into Xianyuan space by Wang Feng, who killed them in the same way he killed the goblins. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1084. Wang Feng did not let those soldiers who wanted to join the expeditionary army to slaughter the people of the Buryui tribe, because Wang Feng did not want those expeditionary soldiers to become killing machines. Killing simply for hatred will gradually make people bloodthirsty. When everything was settled, Wang Feng and his men were finally ready to leave. Although the city of the Buryui tribe was very good, Wang Feng did not think of taking it for himself. It was not because he was embarrassed, but because Wang Feng felt that although the city of the Buryui tribe was magnificent and was quite strong in both defense and attack, it was not so suitable for the human race. Because the city has no spatial attributes, it is too large. In this way, if you want to support the energy shield, you need to consume more life energy, especially the best area of the city, which was tailor-made by the Buryui tribe for themselves and only suitable for them. For the human race, those are just like ventilation holes. It is a bit too much to ask them to get in. However, the harvest of the human race in this level is quite rich. First of all, the life energy of the human race has been replenished again. This is the most important thing for the human race, because if they want their defense fortress to operate at full capacity, the life energy required is not a little bit. In addition, the cold weapons of the Hope Expeditionary Army have been updated again. Although the metals used by the Buray people to make robots are quite hard, the Buray people have a peculiar way to easily change the shape of that metal, so they use that metal to help the soldiers of the expeditionary army to make weapons, which can be said to be quite simple. However, the method used by the Buray people belongs to their racial talent and is not suitable for the human race. It is impossible to learn it. Therefore, Wang Feng simply let them build a set of weapons and armor, which greatly strengthened the strength of the Hope Expeditionary Army. Although the recovery ability of the expeditionary soldiers is quite strong, it takes a lot of life energy to repair their bodies. With this set of metal armor, it can at least help them resist a lot of damage and save their energy consumption. As for the other warriors, Wang Feng only asked the Bri tribe to help them make weapons and armor. There were too many people. Even if the Bri tribe had enough materials, Wang Feng didn't want to waste too much time here. Moreover, when encountering a truly powerful enemy, they all hope that the expeditionary force will be the main force in the front. They don't need too much protection in the back. Finally, after taking a look at the Bri people standing by and ready to see them off, Wang Feng directly stepped into the portal in front of him, and the human defense fortress suddenly disappeared without a trace after Wang Feng stepped into the portal. Seeing that the humans finally left, the Bri tribe was completely relieved. Before, because Wang Feng was too strong and Qiu Jian appeared, all the requirements of the Bri tribe for the human race were simply executed as orders. Even so, the Bri tribe has been terrified, because if they complete all the requirements of the human race, and the human race suddenly turns hostile, they will also have no way to deal with it, especially since the human race has had precedents before. Now seeing that the human race actually kept their promise and really left after they completed all the requirements of the human race, the remaining people of the Bri tribe couldn't help but cheer loudly. Although they also lost a lot of people this time, as long as their race can continue, and those dead people are only selected from the two split Bri tribes as sacrifices, in their minds, at least, this can be regarded as that person still has half or a continuation of life. At this time, Wang Feng and his team also came to a new level. After arriving at this level, according to the old rules, the reconnaissance plane immediately took off to detect the enemies on this level. Soon, the reconnaissance results made them feel relieved, and they also confirmed that this endless tower should indeed be arranged by someone behind the scenes, because the enemies on this level are not strong. According to the current strength of the human race, it should be easy to solve. It seems that in the future, the endless tower should only have the level of hundreds. The other levels are not a big threat to the human race. After seeing the enemy's information, the 2nd and 3rd legions actually took the initiative to ask for battle and ask to deal with the enemies on this level. Wang Feng and Duan Lei agreed to their request without thinking. It is unknown how many levels the endless tower will have, so it would be a good thing if the strength of these two legions could be improved. If they all rely on the Hope Expeditionary Force, I am afraid that the Hope Expeditionary Force cannot withstand such consumption. If there are more races like the Bri tribe on the previous level, it is estimated that the Hope Expeditionary Force will be exhausted soon. Of course, when these two legions go out, the Mars Trio and Lu Feng will also drive the space battleship to watch them to prevent them from having accidents. They want to train these two legions, not to destroy them. In this level, the human race did not waste much time. Even if they only dispatched the 2nd and 3rd legions, they passed this level in less than a month. This is related to the casualties of the Hope Expeditionary Force on the previous level. The Hope Expeditionary Force has always been the most elite force among the human race and the best treated army. The other two legions naturally felt dissatisfied, especially the weak races before, which were almost all defeated by these two legions, and the Hope Expeditionary Force never took action. In the battle with the Buray tribe, they finally saw the power of the Hope Expeditionary Force. Although they were no longer on the scene, and the human race did not record the battle process with the Buray tribe at the beginning, after reaching an agreement with the Buray tribe, they once found the Buray people and asked for the video of the battle in their city. After watching those videos, these warriors finally knew where the gap between themselves and the Hope Expeditionary Force was. Seeing the flying lights in the city of the Bure tribe and the figures of the expeditionary soldiers fighting, the soldiers of the 2nd and 3rd Legions finally understood that the gap between them and the expeditionary soldiers was not just in terms of strength. Seeing the chaotic scene in the city, these soldiers were calculating in their hearts what the chances of survival would be if they were in it. After getting the results, they all felt helpless. Even if they raised their strength to the same level as the soldiers of the Hope Expeditionary Force, they knew that their chances of survival in the city might be 50%. But this was limited to 2 to 3 minutes. Once this time was exceeded, they were almost sure that the possibility of their survival was infinitely close to zero. They finally knew clearly that the biggest difference between them and the Hope Expeditionary Force was actually fighting will and fighting consciousness. And if you want to improve these two items, the best way is war. Only in a real war can you hone the best fighting consciousness and the strongest fighting will. Therefore, after knowing that the biological knowledge this time was a weak race, the 2 legions took the initiative to volunteer. They knew that no matter how weak the race was, as long as they stepped onto the battlefield, all of them would have the possibility of death. But they still chose to fight, because they knew that they didn't know how many floors this endless tower would have, and even Wang Feng and his team were not sure that they could lead the human race to the top successfully. So if their combat power is improved, it will naturally increase the possibility of the human race climbing to the top of the endless tower, and at that time, they will not feel like they are just playing soy sauce. No one doesn't like strong strength, but strength cannot be obtained for no reason, just like Mars said to them. You must go up and try it yourself, because only in this way can you prove that you are really not good enough. Mars was joking. This kid rarely said serious words, but these warriors, after watching the battle between the Hope Expeditionary Force and the Bure tribe, picked up the words that Mars had joked with them before. Because in their opinion, compared with the Hope Expeditionary Force, they are really not good enough. And they also know that the strength of the Hope Expeditionary Force was accumulated in constant battles. They followed Wang Feng all the way here, and they didn't know how many battles they had experienced. From the earliest zombies to now, what kind of enemies have they not seen? It is these countless battles and countless sacrifices that have created this terrifying army now. The 2 legions were stimulated. They thought that if the Hope Expeditionary Army could do it, why couldn't they? They could do it too. Therefore, after volunteering, these soldiers fought very bravely on the battlefield, and because they had watched the battle videos of the Hope Expeditionary Army, they also subconsciously learned the fighting style of the Hope Expeditionary Army. That is, when fighting, they will never be heroic, rushing around, slashing and killing until they fall down, but cooperate with each other, and be quite slippery, take advantage if they can, and slip away if they can't, looking for other enemies, not entangled with one enemy. At first, the Hope Expeditionary Army was looked down upon by the warriors of the Primitive Star because of this tactic, but now, a large part of the 2nd Legion are the warriors of the Primitive Star, and they are the most serious in learning this method. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1085. With the Hope Expeditionary Force as the target of the 2 Legion warriors, they were quite brave in the battle on this level, and because they had taken advantage of the time when the Bri people helped the human race to transform the defensive fortress and the Yanhuang on the previous level, they also carefully studied the images of the Hope Expeditionary Force's battle. Although the Hope Expeditionary Force's soldiers had actually practiced the tactical actions used in the battle, because they had all passed the instructor's training, although because of the large number of people, their graduates might not be as good as the original Guardian Legion soldiers, but Li Yingning still taught them everything they should learn. Therefore, what they lack now is actually just combat experience, how to grasp the opportunity in the battle, and what kind of tactics to adopt in what kind of situation. Although instructor Li Yingning can tell them directly about these things, it is definitely not as profound as their own understanding in the battle. Just like those Hope expeditionary forces, when they are in battle now, some tactical actions have become their body's instincts, and they don't need the brain to command at all, and they can subconsciously complete one or several actions, and they often escape the catastrophe because of this. Just like hearing a gunshot, a rookie will first hear the sound from the ears, then transmit it to the brain. After the brain analyzes it, it thinks it is a gunshot, which means that a bullet is shooting at itself, and then it will give orders to the body's limbs, and then the rookie will make an evasive action. This reaction speed, in many cases, cannot save their lives at all, because the bullets of many guns are faster than the sound. In most cases, when you hear the gunshot, the bullet has already hit you. As for those veterans on the battlefield, when the bullet approaches them, they can sense the danger from the flow of air, and the body will immediately dodge without the brain's order. This is a subconscious action, and now these soldiers are training this subconscious. Of course, although they regard this battle as training, they did not deliberately delay time. After all, the enemy this time is very weak. Whether it is training or not, if the time is delayed too long, they will feel quite faceless. On the 25th day after entering this level, they completed the task of killing the human race on this level. Because the races on this level were originally ranked quite low, there was nothing to plunder. Therefore, after completing the task, Wang Fen did not wait for the two legions to withdraw and prepare. He directly stepped into the portal that had just appeared and entered the next level of the Endless Tower. The next dozens of levels were still some weak races. In the battles on these levels, the Hope Expeditionary Force only went out once, and the rest were all completed by the warriors of the two legions. Although these warriors had participated in many battles in the first 100 levels, it was not until they watched the battle between the Hope Expeditionary Force and the Bree tribe that they understood what they really wanted to learn in the battle. Therefore, during this period of time, the two legions have grown to the point where they can be called truly elite. Not only did they basically master the three-person combat team combat method that the Hope Expeditionary Force is best at, but they also designed many combat combinations to deal with various situations. The growth of the two legions is naturally a good thing for the human race, but because the strength of these warriors has now surpassed level 5, Wang Fen has no way to strengthen them. If they want to go to the next level, they can only rely on themselves. After going through nearly 200 floors of the Endless Tower, the human race has never wiped out any race. Therefore, Wang Fen, who is preparing to attack the controller, naturally did not collect a single control mark. Wang Fen did not care about this. First of all, the current controller made it clear that the task of their endless road is to reach the top of the Endless Tower. Apart from this, there are no other conditions. As for the controller's mark, it is only circulated among the controllers of all generations. It is said that the more you collect, the more benefits you will get after becoming a controller in the future. However, when the controllers changed, there was no handover, so the new and old controllers did not have the opportunity to meet. Just like the current controller said, after he became the controller, the previous controller had disappeared. Like Wang Fen, he only met the previous controller before he obtained the qualification of the Endless Road and entered the Endless Road. It is estimated that after the human race reaches the top of the Endless Tower, even if Wang Fen becomes the controller, when he returns to the controller space again, he will not be able to see the previous controller. Therefore, no one can verify the legend of the control mark. And Wang Fen mainly feels that even if he is a controller, it is not that great. He is called a controller, but he is actually useless. He doesn't even dare to go too far to protect his own race. What kind of controller is this? Therefore, Wang Fen is not very enthusiastic about the position of this controller. Instead, he has been thinking, if the human race successfully reaches the top and he becomes the controller, then what will be the ending of this generation of human race who enters the Endless Tower with him? Where will they go? When Wang Feng met the controller before, he had thought about bringing up this matter, but he never got a reply. The controller always talked about other things. It seemed that he could not say it, or he did not know it himself. In short, Wang Feng knew that after he became the controller, Doomsday and the others would definitely not continue to live in this universe and continue the inheritance of the human race. Because the reason was obvious. They were now following him to explore the endless road. If he became the controller after successfully reaching the top, and Doomsday and the others returned to the original star or the outer universe to continue living, then why was there no detailed information about the endless tower and the endless road among the human race? Wang Feng now knew that the last endless road was also opened by the human race, and it was also successfully reached by the human race. The current controller was a clear proof. Since he blocked the controller, what about the human race who followed him? It was impossible for him to break into the endless road alone at that time, right? If the human race of the original star in this universe is the descendants of those humans who followed him to the top of the endless tower, then why is there no detailed information about the endless road among the human race? At least how to open it, how long the preparation period is, what should be paid attention to, they should leave a message to warn their descendants, right? So now Wang Feng's mind is not on the itinerary of the endless tower. After reading the information of the original star, Wang Feng is actually not worried about the endless tower. After the human race's defense fortress has been transformed twice, plus the rapid improvement of the two major legions, the current strength of the human race is no longer the same as when they just entered the endless road. Therefore, Wang Feng believes that the human race can successfully reach the top last time, so they can also reach the top of the endless tower once, but, after reaching the top, how should they choose? Or, those mysterious creatures, will they give the human race the opportunity to choose freely? The controller did not say anything about these things, and he did not even mention the information about those creatures, which seemed to be a bit cautious. Wang Feng did not believe that in such a long time, the controller would not know anything about those mysterious creatures. As for his own ideas, Wang Feng could not discuss them with others. Although Wang Feng did not have a good impression of those mysterious creatures, at least now, he did not dare to tell others about his experiences in the controller space. After all, the controller said that if it was leaked, the consequences would be. Doomsday, Lu Wanting and others also saw that Wang Feng had always been worried, but since Wang Feng did not say it himself, they did not ask. They knew that if there was no necessary reason, Wang Feng would not hide it from them. Soon, the human race had completed the task of the 199th floor and could directly enter the 200th floor. However, this time, Wang Feng did not enter the portal directly after the two legions completed the killing task. He still directly ordered the two legions to withdraw their troops and return to the defensive fortress to repair first. After 3 days of rest, Wang Feng started to walk towards the portal, ready to enter the next level, and the others were all serious, ready to face the real challenge. According to previous experience, they should encounter a powerful race again on the 200th floor. No matter whether this race is high-tech or high-powered, in short, their human race will face another difficult test. As before, when Wang Feng stepped into the portal, they came to a brand new space again. They have experienced the scene many times and have long been accustomed to it. After entering this space, the reconnaissance aircraft did not hesitate and started to fly in all directions to find their enemies on this level. However, these reconnaissance aircraft have become quite cautious now. After passing the level of the Bree tribe, the expeditionary soldiers who are driving the reconnaissance aircraft no longer completely trust the aircraft's airborne radar. Their eyes are also searching for possible enemies around them. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1086. However, in this layer, Wang Feng and the others encountered an unprecedented situation, because after searching for a month, they still found nothing. This situation has never happened before. Although Wang Feng and the others felt something was strange, they had no choice but to wait patiently and sent more fighter planes to investigate again. Soon, 3 months passed. During these 3 months, Wang Feng and the others did not see any enemies. They were even sure that no matter what the enemies on this level were, at least they did not appear on the ground. Traces of the past. At this time, they finally understood what kind of space each floor of the Endless Tower was like. The space in the Endless Tower is not endless. At the end of the continent, there is a crystal wall system that connects to the sky. It is exactly the same as the one where Wang Feng got the ultimate rough stone before. Wang Feng even asked Qiu Jian to go to the crystal wall system. After staying for a while, he wanted to see if he could still get the ultimate rough stone. However, after cutting open the crystal wall system, Qiu Jian found that the crystal wall system here seemed to be endless. He simply could not break through a crystal wall system that could be seen like before. There is a hole in the turbulent flow of space, so I have to give up. In the past 3 months, Wang Feng and the others have sent tens of millions of small fighter planes to search this space, but they have not found any traces of biological existence. Even the army of rats has been searching everywhere underground, but they have found nothing. What's going on? Did the enemies on this floor die automatically because they have no resources? Then how do we get through this floor? Wang Feng looked at the unresponsive communicator, frowned and asked, "This is indeed a big trouble. If the enemies on this level, due to lack of resources, perished before they arrived, wouldn't they? Do you want to stay here forever? It shouldn't be." Duanlei shook his head and said, "If the creatures in this layer are really extinct, then we should go directly through this layer. There is no way we will be stranded here. Moreover, until now, we have not found any signs of life. If the guardian race on this level is really extinct, at least we should be able to find their camp. And their corpses, they can't completely disappear." Senior Dong Huang. Third Master. Having said this, Duanlei looked at Dong Huang Tai and Fuxi. Among the original stars, are there any races that exist in a form that we cannot see? Dong Huang Tai and Fuxi looked at each other, then Dong Huang Tai nodded and said, "Yes. It is said that there are some intelligent races that live in the state of souls, but we don't have the information about these races. The original star is too big. There are at least tens of thousands of intelligent races. It is impossible for us to include every race. All the information is available." Hearing Dong Huang Tai's words, Duanlei nodded and said, It seems that the creatures on this level should be one of these races. Otherwise, there is no way to explain why we can't find them yet. Holy crap! Does this mean that the enemies on our level are ghosts?" Firestar was startled. "Haha! Damn it! Looks like we finally saw a ghost this time." Tang Haoshan didn't care, but laughed. "But the problem is..." Lu Feng frowned and looked at Wang Feng. "We can't even detect such enemies, so how can we kill them?" Wang Feng looked at Dong Huang Tai and Fuxi. He had never seen such a creature living in a soul state. Of course, he didn't know how to deal with it, so he had to turn to Dong Huang Tai and Fuxi for help. "Don't look at us." Fuxi shook his head and said, "I have never dealt with such a race, so I can't give you any advice. No need to study how to kill them first." Duanlei said at this time, "Our mission now is to find them. We don't even know where the enemies are, so there's no need to study how to kill them." "That's right." Wang Feng smiled bitterly and shook his head. "How can we fight if we can't find the enemy? Now, I really hope that we can see the ghost soon." Head. There was an accident in the residential area and 2 civilians died. The cause is unknown, it seems to be a supernatural event. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from the communicator. Residential area? Supernatural events. After Wang Feng heard this voice, he looked at Duan Lei, and Lu Feng and Tang Haoshen's eyes also lit up. It seemed that their enemy seemed to have arrived. The human race's defensive fortress is divided into 4 layers. The mutated willow tree is planted in the center, and the central layer surrounding it is the command area. The human race's general headquarters is in this area, that is, where Wang Feng and the others are now. In addition, it is hoped that all the expeditionary force will be stationed in this area. The outer layer is the residential area, which is also the largest area in the defensive fortress. It is full of ordinary people. This layer is built similar to the city on the mother planet or the Atlantis star, except that surrounding every residential building, there will be a large area of farmland. This is also the main job of ordinary people in the defensive fortress, producing and storing food. In addition, there are also some commercial buildings in this area, such as bars and nightclubs. After all, people still need some relaxation, especially those soldiers. After experiencing a war, if they do not relax, their spirits will be damaged. If you keep it tight, problems can easily arise. The floor outside the residential area is where the 2 legions are stationed. It has both their barracks and training grounds. It can be regarded as a purely military area. On the outermost layer of the defensive fortress are those who have not completed all the training tasks given by instructor Li Yingning. They include enhancers, evolvers, and even more powerful ones, but because they are not suitable for fighting, that's why even the 2 legions couldn't enter. The outermost area they are in is a mixture of residential area and military area. It has both farmland and training grounds, and those who live here are all combatants. When the defensive fortress is attacked, they are considered the first layer of defense force. But now, the accident happened in the residential area, that is, the area where the civilians were. Different from the reactions of Lu Feng and Tang Haoshen, Duan Lei frowned after hearing the news. Lu Feng and Tang Haoshen's eyes lit up naturally because they felt that an enemy had appeared, no matter what kind of enemy it was. As long as we can find them, we should be able to think of ways to solve them. But Duan Lei felt that this matter was not that simple, because it was civilians who died. There are a large number of civilians in the human race, and their number is the largest among the human race. In order to protect them, Duan Lei specially designated the layer surrounding the command area as the human race's residential area, because it is relatively the safest. Because the most central area of the defensive fortress is the entrance and exit for space battleships and all small fighters, and the control center of the entire defensive fortress is also here, it can only be used as a command area. Those civilians who are close to the command area naturally have the highest safety factor. Besides, outside their area, there are also the military areas of the 2 legions and the defense areas where the combatants are located. If an enemy invades the defensive fortress, they will naturally be it is those 2 areas that will be attacked first. But now nothing happened in the 2-layer area outside. Instead, something abnormal happened in the safest residential area. Especially, until now, civilians have died, but the alarm system of the defense fortress still has no response. Duan Lei looked at Dong Huangtai and Fuxi, and then said, "It seems that you are right. This enemy should be a soul creature. Otherwise, it would be impossible to bypass the 2 peripheral areas and directly enter the residential area without triggering the alarm system of the defensive fortress. But judging from the fact that 2 civilians died, it can at least be confirmed that the strength of this kind of creature should not be very strong, otherwise it would not attack civilians directly. Senior Dong Huang and Sain Yi, do you have anything to say about this kind of creature?" Guess. Although Dong Huangtai and Fuxi said before that they did not know much about the race of soul-body creatures, they were also aborigines in the original star and knew more than them. Therefore, Duan Lei did not go directly to check on the 2 dead ones. A commoner, but wanted to hear their guesses first. The soul race, because its life form is very different from ours, and they don't seem to need any base or other survival point, they just wander on the continent of the original star, and almost never come into contact with other creatures, or we don't know it even if we come into contact with it, so we don't know much about this creature. Dong Huangtai shook his head. Furthermore, if our enemy this time is really a creature with this kind of soul, I'm afraid it won't be that easy for us to pass through this level, because we don't know how to kill this kind of soul creature at all. Wang Feng also frowned, and then said to Duan Lei, I'll go see the two dead people first, and then I'll think of a solution. Yeah. Let's go together. Seeing that Duan Lei didn't get any information he wanted from Dong Huangtai and Fuxi, he had to go and see the two dead civilians first, and then think of a solution. When they came to the residential area and saw the two dead civilians, their faces couldn't help but become more solemn. The expressions on the faces of these two dead civilians were quite terrifying. It seemed that they had experienced something terrible before they died. The same terrible thing happened, and there was bleeding from all the orifices, and the eyes were wide open. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1087. At this time, the district chief in charge of this area had arrived at the scene and was talking to Gau's Hixing, who had arrived here before. After seeing Wang Feng and others arriving, Gau's Hixing walked up to Wang Feng and sighed softly. We may be in quite a lot of trouble this time. Because these ordinary people are all human beings on the home planet, the entire residential area is under the responsibility of General Gau's Hixing. In order to facilitate management, the residential area is divided into 12 communities. The district chief of each community is also appointed by Gau's Hixing. After all, these ordinary people know almost everyone about Gau's Hixing, the supreme leader of his former home planet, and he is also quite experienced in this aspect of management. And Gau's Hixing has the trust of Wang Feng and others, and there is naturally no obstacle to doing things. Since entering the Endless Road, these civilians have been intellectually organized and their lives are very stable, and now these civilians have also adapted to life in a defensive fortress. Although compared with the life on the home planet, there seems to be a big gap, but they all know that according to the current situation, they civilians are not treated as slaves or even abandoned children, which is already quite good. Now all the humans know the rules of the Endless Tower, and they also know that ordinary people like themselves, not only are not of any help to the human race, but are 100% a hindrance. Everyone understood that if they were of no use, then, their lives would become meaningless. Therefore, not only did they not complain about the work assigned to them by Gau's Hixing, but they did it very seriously. Because this at least means that ordinary people like them are not completely useless. Now that something like this has happened, although ordinary people are also very scared, generally speaking, the order is still stable and has not caused any disturbances. This is why Gau's Hixing took measures after receiving the report as soon as possible. Preventive. In fact, although it seems that only 2 ordinary people died, it is not a big deal. Although Wang Feng and the others brought all these ordinary people into the Endless Road, to be honest, Wang Feng and the others have nothing to do with the lives of these ordinary people. I didn't really take it to heart. All their energy is focused on fighting those races. Even Luqiang, Shen Yishan, and Tai Zhu are responsible for the daily life of the Expeditionary Army soldiers and the other 2 legions. For ordinary people, this area is also there was no intervention, and full power was given to Gau's Hixing. When someone was found dead this time, the district chief quickly notified Gau's Hixing. After Gau's Hixing immediately reported the matter to Wang Feng and the others, he came here directly. As Gau's Hixing, who has entered the core of management, of course he knew, the enemies on this level now are life forms such as soul bodies. Although Gau's Hixing is not very clear about what the soul body is. Although there were legends about ghosts, gods, and monsters on the mother planet in the past, Gauss Hixing knew that the enemies he encountered this time were different from those he had heard before. That's definitely different. Therefore, after knowing that 2 people had died, Gauss Hixing instinctively felt that this incident must be related to their enemies on this level, so he did not dare to neglect. After reporting to the superiors, he came here to understand the situation. After understanding some of the situation, Gauss Hixing couldn't help but feel angry, because he now knew that the area he was responsible for had actually been abnormal for a long time. It was just the 12 districts responsible for these 12 communities. The director, after discovering the abnormality, did not report it to Gauss Hixing. It was not until now that the person was dead that he felt that he could no longer hide it, so he reported it to Gauss Hixing. It turns out that as early as a month and a half ago, the entire residential area began to experience abnormalities. Many ordinary people began to become nervous. They were obviously doing their work, but suddenly went crazy, or they were yelling and messing around. Run, or directly attack the companions around you. However, these people would recover after a period of time after such a situation occurred, and the doctors could not find any problems, so the district chiefs did not report this matter to Gauss Hixing. In fact, their thoughts are very simple. They know their status. In fact, among the entire human race, they are the lowest and have the least say. Although now they also know that their current location, this living area, is considered important. It is the safest place in the entire defensive fortress. Even the central command area is not completely closed, because the entrances and exits of warships and fighter planes are in that area. Therefore, to enter the residential area, you must either come from the outermost periphery or from the command area, so they are protected. A group of people. Although they also know that Wang Feng and the others must have done this because of the rules of the Endless Tower. Although they are not strong, they are still members of the human race. If they die, they will also be included in the number of deaths of the human race. Middle. But they are still very grateful to Wang Feng, because they can kill them all before entering the Endless Road. In this way, the human race will not be able to join the battle without them, but will need to be protected. Of course, the chances of reaching the top will be higher. Therefore, the district chiefs of these 12 districts all feel that although there are some abnormalities among ordinary people like them, now is an extraordinary period, so they should not bother the higher UPS of the human race with these trivial matters, lest they feel that they, like themselves, not only is it not of much help, but it also has a lot of things that are off-putting. As ordinary people, they never know about battles. Although Wang Feng and the others will report to the whole clan every time they pass a level, let these ordinary people know that the human race has once again won the victory and is heading towards the Endless Tower. Another step forward. However, the race and strength of the enemy will basically not be exaggerated too much, especially before the battle is over. Because if you encounter a powerful enemy, telling these ordinary people the enemy's information may make them feel that the enemy is powerful and cause panic. They don't need to participate in the battle anyway, so Wang Feng and the others simply tell them their current progress as human race is enough. And this time, because the enemy has not been found yet, these ordinary people of course have no information about the enemy at all, and they have not connected the weird supernatural events that happened before with the enemies on this level. Because they were not notified that the enemy might infiltrate the defensive fortress, they thought that those people might have suffered from depression because they had lived in this defensive fortress for too long, so they had such abnormal behavior. After Gauss Hixing heard the previous situation, he immediately thought that the defensive fortress should have been invaded by enemies on this level, so he carefully understood the time when the abnormality began to occur and the scope of its spread. When Wang Feng arrived, Gauss Hixing immediately told Wang Feng all the situations he had learned before, and also called all the district chiefs from other areas over to summarize all the abnormal situations that occurred in their districts. After hearing the reports from these people, Wang Feng, Duanlei, and others pondered for a while, and then everyone looked at Duanlei to see what he had speculated. Doomsday looked at everyone, but did not answer immediately. Instead, he took out the communicator first and asked about the outermost defensive legion, as well as the second and third legions on the second level. After learning that these two levels after no abnormal phenomena occurred, he breathed a sigh of relief. Doomsday of the Hope Expeditionary Force did not ask, because he knew that if such a thing happened among the Hope Expeditionary Force, he would definitely know it immediately. The soldiers of the Hope Expeditionary Force who are in charge of the latest situation would not be able to see such a thing happen. After the incident, he would hide it from them. I think. Although the enemies this time are very strange, but they don't seem to be very powerful. Doomsday slowly said. Obviously, the enemy this time is a kind of soul-body creature, and he also used a method unknown to us to enter our defensive fortress. However, no matter what method they use to enter our defensive fortress, it is impossible to come directly to the residential area where ordinary people live. But there were no abnormalities in other areas. That is to say, they did not choose to attack in those areas, but chose residential areas where most of the people live. Especially. It has been more than a month since the abnormal situation occurred, but only 2 people have died here. I don't know how these creatures killed them, but at least this can explain one thing, that is, it seems that he doesn't dare to attack powerful people. However, although I don't think they are powerful, after all, they have entered our defensive fortress for more than a month. In this more than a month, they can do too many things. The vast majority of our people are ordinary people. Once the number of ordinary people dying reaches that number, then our human race will also be wiped out. Therefore, we must start taking action immediately to track down these enemies. Having said this, Doomsday directly issued an order to Gao's Hixing. Old Gao. Let your people kill and isolate all those who have experienced abnormalities. We are going to see them. In addition, from now on, all ordinary people's activities will be stopped immediately. Don't let anyone be alone. Old Tang, mobilize some people from the 2nd Legion and go to the residential area to be with ordinary people. If you find any ordinary people who appear abnormal, you must immediately send him to the isolation area and report to us. Also, bring a life detector. Although these soul life forms are different from ours, they are still life forms after all. Let's see if the life detector can detect them. In addition, notify all races. The battle on our level has begun. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1088. Following Doomsday's order, the entire human defense fortress immediately took action. Most of the soldiers of the 2nd Army were mobilized and entered the residential area. Even the Hope Expeditionary Force only left 10,000 soldiers. People were guarding the central area, and the others all dispersed among ordinary people, holding life detectors, trying to find the location of those souls and bodies. As for the mutated willows and mutated beehives, they were all taken back to the command area as a defensive force. In fact, now they are basically certain that the enemies on this level are none other than the soul creatures. However, after all, they are under their command. In the center, there must still be defense. Who knows what means the life of the soul body has? Because they have never come into contact with such creatures, Wang Feng and others know nothing about them at all. They have to figure everything out, so they use all kinds of methods. However, even so, they still did not find any breakthrough in 3 days. On the contrary, more and more civilians died. From the beginning when ordinary people died, in these 3 days, people like them more and more people died, and the total number has reached more than 1,000. And among the more than 1,000 people, all are ordinary people, and no one is even above the level of enhancer. Moreover, for these more than 1,000, it was because Wang Feng did not hesitate to consume life energy to enhance their strength among ordinary people who were isolated due to abnormalities, making them all become enhancers, and they were able to maintain the vast majority of their lives. Some of the abnormal lives of ordinary people, otherwise, the death toll is estimated to have definitely exceeded 10,000. Since Wang Feng began to promote ordinary people with abnormalities into enhancers, those soul-body creatures seemed to have begun to change their ways. They were still lurking in the bodies of ordinary people, but those ordinary people possessed by them, but there were very few abnormalities at first, but bleeding from all 7 holes, and then death. These soul bodies can also be discovered by life detectors, but this has no effect on Wang Feng and the others, because they are all soul creatures found in the bodies of ordinary people. In this way, they have no way to start. They can't just kill one of their own in order to force the soul creature to come out, right? Although these ordinary people actually have no contribution at all in this endless road and are dispensable or even a burden, from the beginning, Wang Feng and Duan Lei had no intention of giving up on these people. Not to mention that now that they have been brought in, their death numbers will also be included in the total number of deaths and used as a standard to measure the failure of the human race. Just when Wang Feng and the others were helpless, news suddenly came from the human test area that Chris and Gu Changsheng wanted to meet Wang Feng and Duan Lei. This message was sent directly by Chris through the communicator. He didn't say anything in the communicator, he just asked Wang Feng and Duan Lei to go to the laboratory. After getting this news, Wang Feng looked at Duan Lei, but Duan Lei looked around them, because now they are also looking for those soul creatures, so there are many ordinary people around them now. I guess Chris discovered some new mutated gene. Duan Lei shook his head slightly and said, "Alas. They don't know about our current troubles, and they only care about their own research. However, since they called and we have not made any progress here for the time being, we might as well go and take a look." Although Duan Lei said so, and his voice was not deliberately lowered, his eyes hinted at Wang Feng without any trace. Wang Feng, who had been with Duan Lei for many years, naturally understood what he meant, so even though he didn't understand why, he still very cooperative and said, "That's right. You can't find this damn monster at all, so just go to Chris's place." Afterwards, Wang Feng ordered the Martian trio around him to continue searching for soul creatures among ordinary people, and then left with Duan Lei. However, Duan Lei still didn't say anything on the way. Wang Feng, who was full of doubts, had no choice but to hold his tongue and came to the laboratory with Duan Lei. The human race's laboratory was established in the command area, and was headed by Gu Changsheng and Chris. There were many researchers in it, with talents in various fields, but most of them came from the home planet. After all, Atlantis has experienced the end of the world, and scientists are basically the type of people who have the hardest time surviving in the end of the world, even worse than women and children. They have spent their lives studying the fields they study, and for others don't know anything about it at all. Perhaps before the end of the world, these scientific and technological talents can be regarded as the pillars of the human world. Thanks to their day and night research, mankind has been able to develop rapidly. However, even before the end of the world, they have not received the attention they deserve, and their social status and even not as good as those actors. Therefore, after the end of the world, no one cares about them anymore. Biogenetic experts such as Gu Changsheng and Chris may still be valued because of their expertise, but other scientific researchers basically they are in their prime, so there are very few scientific and technological talents on Atlantis. And these few talents basically come from the Hope Base, because Wang Feng and Duan Lei take care of these people, and they are able to survive until now. As for the laboratory in the defensive fortress, although its name is just laboratory, even calling it test square seems a bit small. Because no matter what kind of scientific and technological talents they are, Wang Feng and the others have put them here, and regardless of whether the technology they research is useful to the current human race, they are allowed to continue their scientific research. Therefore, this laboratory space is quite large, with 100,000 individual laboratories in it, all of various types. Although Wang Feng and the others also know that even if the research of these scientists has achieved results, they will not be able to do it at all. It's not used, but they still built such a huge laboratory. The future of the human race will continue. When everything is over, it is impossible for humans to return to the era of slash and burn farming. Therefore, by that time, the value of these people will be reflected. Although Wang Feng and the others also know that the society they imagined is still far away from them, but this at least represents that they are working hard in this direction, and the existence of these scientists can also remind them not to forget their original aspirations. Ideal. After entering the laboratory, Chris and Gu Changsheng immediately greeted them. Johnny, a guy, also followed behind them. This guy's current life is much worse than when he was on the Zizhu continent on the Atlantis planet. Much better. Because of Chris, Johnny is now also one of the managers of this laboratory, especially Gu Changsheng and Chris. They are obsessed with the subjects they study and don't care about the management of this laboratory, so basically the daily management of the laboratory and various matters are directly handled by Johnny. Because of the time he spent under Chris, Johnny is not so interested in scientific research now. Therefore, he enjoys his current life very much, and he actually manages the entire laboratory in an orderly manner. It can be said that he has quite a talent for management. Madman. We have studied the corpses of several dead humans and found a method that can be used to deal with those soul creatures. After meeting Wang Feng, Chris went straight to the topic without any courtesy. We found that these soul creatures should be very afraid of a kind of sound wave in our laboratory. Therefore, if we modify this sound wave device and expand its power, it can send sound waves to the entire defensive fortress. Maybe we can kill those creatures. Sound wave. Wang Feng and Duan Lei were stunned at the same time, and then looked at Chris together. Neither of them knew that there was some device emitting sound waves in the laboratory. Dr. Gu Changsheng nodded and said, "This kind of sound wave is a topic we started researching when we were in Atlantis. The apocalypse had not yet come at that time. After the establishment of this laboratory, because the zombie genes previously studied no longer have much effect, I gave up on studying him and started to conquer the previous sound wave research. After receiving help from the goblins and the breeze, we finally successfully completed this sound wave device. However, the sound waves it emits only serve to make people's mental energy more concentrated and will not cause drowsiness. It doesn't seem to be of much help to you, so we only use it in the laboratory. It's just that after this period of time, we suddenly thought of one thing, that is, there are a large number of ordinary people in our laboratory, but none of them have ever encountered that kind of soul creature. Attack. Before, because we were all conducting our own research, no one cared about this. Even those of us who specialize in studying human corpses that died due to attacks by soul-body creatures have never thought of this. It wasn't until the day before yesterday that one of us, a researcher who was responsible for collecting corpses in the residential area, was suddenly attacked and died by a spirit creature in the outside world, that we thought of this very strange place. So, we used the transported corpses to conduct another experiment. Come and see. With that said, Gu Changsheng turned around and led the way towards a laboratory. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1089. Wang Feng and Duan Lei looked at each other, and then followed them together, while Chris and Johnny followed behind them. They also met some people along the way, but all of them looked like they were in a hurry. No one paid attention to them at all. Seeing this situation, Wang Feng and Duan Lei nodded inwardly. It seems that these scientific researchers have now returned to the state before the apocalypse. Except for their own ongoing projects, they are indifferent to other things, even if it is Wang Feng, the guy who can be regarded as having the highest say in the human race at present, appeared in front of them, but he still couldn't arouse any interest from them. However, only such people who can focus on, or even be obsessed with, their own work can achieve achievements in their own field that others cannot achieve. After entering a laboratory, Wang Feng and Duan Lei saw a hospital stretcher bed at a glance. Gu Changsheng came to the side of the stretcher bed and directly lifted the white sheet covering the stretcher bed, revealing what was underneath. A corpse. Is this the researcher? Wang Feng looked at the corpse and asked. No. Chris behind him answered directly. This is the first human we received who was killed by a spirit creature. The one next to it belongs to the researcher. Then, Chris walked over and pulled away the white sheets on another stretcher, revealing another body and said. Come and see the difference between these two corpses. Wang Feng looked at the two corpses carefully. There was basically no difference in the death conditions of the two people. They both died of bleeding from the 7 orifices. Because the corpses had not been repaired, the blood stains still remained on the face of the deceased. However, because the first corpse had been dead for a long time, the blood on that corpse was already dark brown, making the man's face look even more terrifying. However, after Wang Feng looked at it for a while, he didn't seem to find much difference, and Duan Lei walked forward, opened their eyelids and took a look. The eyes of the first corpse looked pretty good. Normal, only black and white, if you don't count the dried blood left in your eyes. The researcher's eyes were blood red, the whites of his eyes were covered with bloodshot eyes, and even the pupils were dark red. Wang Feng and Duan Lei looked at Chris together. Chris nodded and said. That's right. That's the difference. Then Chris came to an instrument with a screen and turned on the screen directly. The screen lit up, and then images of 2 brains appeared. These are the brains of these 2 people. We checked all the people killed by soul creatures and found that they all had only one cause of death, brain death. Since entering this level, as of early this morning, a total of 1,248 people have died. We have examined all the corpses of these 1,248 people, and the results are without exception. He lost his life due to cerebral hemorrhage due to overspeeding of the brain. As scientific researchers, most of us know that mental fatigue is actually more likely to kill people than physical fatigue. Just like before, many people, whether in Atlantis or the home planet, suffered from using sudden death due to cerebral hyperplasia. The soul creatures we encounter now use this method to kill us. They should be able to invade our brains, cause us to hallucinate, and unknowingly enter the world they prepared for us. You mean? When Duan Lei heard this, he couldn't help but ask carefully. Can they control our visual and auditory nerves and let us see and hear things or environments that don't actually exist? No, no, no. Chris shook his head repeatedly and said. It's not that simple. They don't affect our visual and auditory nerves. They directly control our brains. When we see or hear something, our eyes or ears first capture it and then transmit it to our brains, but these creatures directly bypass this process and directly project the illusions they create into our minds. Such an illusion will be more real, and once you fall into it, it will be difficult to extricate yourself. For example, it can make you think that you are in a dangerous maze, and you must keep moving forward in order to escape. This maze may continue to torture you for months, years, or even decades, until your spirit breaks down, gives up the desire to survive, and thinks you are dead. When you die in the illusion, in reality, you will also lose your life. How many years? Or even decades? Wang Feng asked with a frown, because they had only been on this level for a few months. Of course. It's possible for centuries. Gu Changsheng on the side said. In this illusion, time is meaningless, because it is just the activity of the brain, just like when you are dreaming. Sometimes your dreams are very long, but in fact you just slept for a short while. So it's possible that a person has just been invaded by this kind of soul creature and then died, but he may have lived in the illusion for thousands of years. At least, that's what he thinks. Okay. Don't explain to me why they exist and how they kill humans yet. Wang Feng didn't quite understand what Gu Changsheng said, so he simply waved his hand and said, "Just tell me, how can we kill them? Also, why are ordinary people dying? No one above the enhanced level has been attacked by them." This. After Chris and Gu Changsheng looked at each other, Chris clicked on the images of the two human brains on the screen and said, "Look at this, this is the brain of the first deceased person we received. Maybe you can't understand it, but I can tell you that this person's brain is currently no different from a normal human brain. And this is the brain of the researcher who was killed by the soul creature because he left the laboratory. Did you see these shadows? We believe that it was these shadows that created the illusion and led to his death." Wang Feng looked at Duan Lei, but neither of them spoke. They both knew that this shadow should not be the kind of soul creature they were looking for. Sure enough, Chris continued. "Because we need to find a way to eliminate these shadows, we placed the bodies of people killed by soul creatures in different environments, including freezing, high temperature, water, and soil. However, we found that these changes in the environment seem to have no effect on this shadow. No matter what environment it is placed in, these shadows will not change. But one thing is that, the shadows in the brains of the corpses we moved into the laboratory are all disappearing, and the speed is very fast." Having said this, Chris pointed to the researcher's brain on the screen, drew two circles on the edge of the shadow and said, "Look. These shadows at the edges are gradually fading. According to our experience, in about 8 hours at most, the shadows in his brain will all dissipate." That. Wang Feng was about to speak, but at this moment, several people suddenly ran in from outside and entered the laboratory with 3 unconscious people. "Wait a minute. You'll be able to see it soon." Chris nodded to Wang Feng and Duan Lei, and then directed the people to place the 3 people at the positions designated by him. Then Chris connected several lines to the 3 people, and then, the screen 3 more brain images appeared. Wang Feng and Duan Lei naturally knew that the 3 new ones must be the brains of the 3 people lying on the bed. However, in the impact display, 2 of the 3 new brain images are shrouded in black shadows, but the areas are larger and smaller. Of course, Chris and Gu Changsheng also saw the images of these 3 people. After seeing the impact, they both nodded slightly. Then Chris pointed to the images of the 3 brains and said, "These are the 3 people I just asked the guards to find outside. They all behave normally, but if you look carefully, you will find dark red bloodshot eyes in their pupils. Now we can use this as a basis for whether a person's body has been invaded by soul creatures. Because people who are invaded by soul creatures will have bloodshot eyes in the beginning, and gradually expand. As for this other guy." Chris went over and opened a person's eyelids and said, "This kid probably stayed up late last night playing games or reading novels, so there are bloodshot eyes in his eyes. They carried him here as if he was invaded. Someone carry this guy away and send him back after the anesthesia wears off." Chris shouted after pulling out the line from the man, and then 2 guards quickly came in and carried the man out. Ahem. Chris coughed twice in embarrassment, and then said, "If our guess is correct, the shadows in the brains of these 2 people will gradually reduce and stop dissipating. In other words, as long as they are in our laboratory, no one will be attacked by soul creatures. We thought a lot about the differences between our laboratory and other places in the defense fortress. Finally, we thought that the reason why soul creatures did not come here is the sound wave device we mentioned before, so we also thought about it. How to use this sonic device to attack this creature. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1090. When Chris said this, Gu Changsheng walked aside, turned on another instrument, pointed to the curve that looked a bit like an electrocardiogram and said, "This is the frequency emitted by the sound wave device currently being used in our entire laboratory." He has been working on this sound wave device since it was completed, but this sound wave is not within the range of human hearing. Wang Feng and Duan Lei looked at the screen displaying the curve. Of course, this curve was basically meaningless to them, so neither of them spoke, but quietly waited for Gu Changshen to continue. "Although we humans cannot hear the sound produced by this device, the sound still exists, and it will make all the researchers in our laboratory more focused and improve our work efficiency." Chris took over and continued. "Since entering this layer, our laboratory has never been attacked by soul creatures. We have now confirmed that the reason is this sound wave, so we are going to modify this sound wave device to increase its frequency so that the sound waves it emits can cover the entire defensive fortress. Although we are not sure yet that this sound wave can kill those soul creatures, at least it should prevent us humans from dying. And we can also try to change the frequency of this device and increase its sound wave output." Wang Feng and Duan Lei looked at each other, and then nodded together, because now they have used all the methods, but still haven't found a way to deal with this creature, so they can only try Chris and Gu Changshen's method. This way. They did not expect that even races such as the goblins and the breeze were easily killed by them, but now they were powerless against this kind of creature that was originally the lowest level on the original star. Because there are basically no ordinary creatures on the original star. Even the goblins have a large number of enhancers. And although some of them have not even reached the level of enhancers, the goblins should have the ability to deal with such soul body creatures. Technology. So at the time of the original star, this kind of soul creature was indeed the lowest level of creature. It's just that because their bodies are originally illusory, and they don't have any camps, let alone supplies, there are no races on the primitive star that actively seek trouble for them. But now, they have become a roadblock for the human race to pass through the endless tower, which makes Wang Feng and the others very depressed. Originally, Wang Feng felt that the destructive power of his Xianyuan sword or Qiu sword should be able to kill such creatures, but the problem now is that they cannot discover these soul creatures at all, let alone how to kill them. Chris. Dr. Gu Changshen. You can start modifying this sonic device now. Whatever resources are needed, we will fully support you. The only requirement is to be fast. The faster, the better. Duan Lei said without hesitation. People are still dying in the human race, and we currently have no way to find these creatures, so it's all up to you. Chris nodded and said. Actually, the modification is in progress now. As for the progress, I am not sure, because this is not a field that I am good at, and I have not even been exposed to it. Therefore, I can't give you an update when the modification will be completed. Exact time. But Chris looked at the screen that showed the brains of the two people who were sent later, pointed at it and said, "You can carry the invaded humans here, see. The shadows in the brains of these two people are fading, so this sound wave can also save those who have been attacked. This is of no use." Duan Lei shook his head and said, "If my guess is correct, after these two people were sent to the laboratory, the soul creatures originally hidden in their bodies have left, so unless we can put all ordinary people under the sound wave coverage within the range, otherwise, they can continue to attack other ordinary people." Hearing Duan Lei's words, Chris and Gu Changshen were stunned at the same time, and then they understood and shook their heads together. It seemed that what Duan Lei said made sense, and their laboratory could not accommodate all ordinary people, so this method is really not very useful. Don't worry. There are more than 100 people working together now to modify the sonic device, and I also asked them to make several more of these sonic devices. Anyway, not much material is consumed, and even after passing this level, there is no need to cancel the device. Its function is to fully focus people's attention, and this function can also be used in daily life. Gu Changshen looked at Wang Feng and said, This old doctor was rescued by Wang Feng and others from the research institute next to Juking City, and he followed them all the way to the present, and because of Wang Feng's potion, Gu Changsheng, who was originally old and frail, now has the strength of an evolver, and his life has of course been extended a lot. Therefore, Gu Changsheng was quite grateful to Wang Feng. He sighed and said, "Actually, the fact that we are able to find more than 100 people to help now is all due to the attention you paid to these helpless scientific researchers. Without you, they would have died long ago due to zombies or other mutations. Being attacked by creatures." Wang Feng and Duan Lei were also secretly glad, because to be honest, these scientific researchers were really useless when they were on Atlantis. They were just like the old people and children. They don't even know how to farm. Fortunately, Wang Feng and Duan Lei were both soldiers when they encountered the apocalypse, so they did not give up on these people. On the contrary, because they knew their country well when they were in the army and valued these scientific researchers, they not only did they not give up on these scientific researchers, but they also gave them special care. This allowed them to survive until now, and to be able to continue their technological research and development before the end of the world. Because this sound wave device was Gu Changsheng's original research topic in Atlantis, most of the scientific researchers who later assisted Gu Changsheng came from the Atlantis star, not that of the home planet. The scientific researchers are not good, but they come from two different planets after all. Although they are both human beings, their research directions are vastly different. Okay. Hurry up and let me know as soon as you're ready. Wang Feng nodded and then looked at Duan Lei. Liza. You are here, Good. Before Wang Feng finished speaking, Duan Lei nodded and said, "You go ahead." Duan Lei knew that Wang Feng wanted to continue searching for those soul creatures. Although they seemed to have found a way to deal with these guys, one reason was that they had never used this method before and had no idea how effective it would be. It's not possible to put all the future of the human race on this sonic device. And Wang Feng staying here can't help at all, because they don't understand this at all, so as long as Duan Lei stays here, he can make a decision at the critical moment. After leaving the laboratory, Wang Feng came to the residential area where Mars and the others were located again. The situation was the same as before. People were still falling down, but others were helpless to deal with the situation. Although the medical team is all here, these people are not physically injured, but their souls or brains have been invaded by soul creatures. Not to mention now, even in the well-equipped giants on the home planet or Atlantis in hospitals, there are basically no effective treatments for something as ethereal as the soul. After Wang Feng came back, he first told everyone about the signs of being invaded by soul creatures and asked them to check each other, because now those who are attacked by soul creatures will basically not show any abnormalities. The soul creatures seem to have known that humans can strengthen themselves to neutralize their attacks. Therefore, they no longer try to increase their death toll through human attacks like before, but begin to lurk. After they invaded the brain of a human race, they only started to invade slowly, because it was not possible to cover the brain with all the shadows in an instant. Therefore, the humans who are being attacked by soul creatures are all fine before, but suddenly they faint, and then, if there are no other measures, they will die directly in their dreams. In fact, speaking of it, such enemies are not terrible, because at least being killed by them is not painful. And there were no obvious wounds on his body, except for the horrified expression on his face and the bleeding from his 7 orifices. After Wang Feng's reminder, it turned out that among ordinary people, many people with bloodshot eyes were found. However, because of the current situation, many ordinary people are panic-stricken, and there are many people who cannot sleep at night. Because they were afraid that once they fell asleep, they would never wake up, so they couldn't be sure whether the bloodshot eyes in this person's eyes were caused by lack of sleep, or whether they were actually attacked by soul creatures. 3 days have passed again, and the death rate of ordinary people has begun to increase. In just these 3 days, the number of deaths of ordinary people has far exceeded the previous total, reaching 10,000. This is a terrifying number. If it continues to increase at this number, it won't be long before the human race will be judged to have failed because the number of deaths exceeds the standard, and the entire race will be wiped out. However, when the third day was about to end, Du-In-Lei's voice finally came. Madman! The sound wave device has been modified. We will soon spread the sound waves to the entire defensive fortress. Please tell everyone to pay attention, some accidents may happen.